All right. This is about my bullies and my friends in Lodgepole High School. Some of y'all pay a little bit of attention to my stories. When I first moved to Nebraska, I lived in Chapel, Nebraska, and I was 15, and I went to school in Lodgepole, Nebraska. The reason for this is because my older brother and my little sister both got kicked out of Chapel High School and had to go to Lodgepole. My mom figured that I might as well start off in Lodgepole. So I walked there every day 9 miles, and I jogged home every day 9 miles. It's 18 miles round trip. The reason that I walked to school every day and my little sister did not is because of a woman named Regina Cowden. If y'all remember, the story is about Rayanne Ingersoll. There are conversations between her and I on my YouTube channel here. She died last year before last. But Rihanna's mom is Regina Cowden. Regina Cowden hates men. So, my very first day at Lodgepole School, I get into the vehicle with Regina, who takes my sister to school, and the whole way there, she is man bashing. But she is not just man bashing, she's projecting it onto me. Well, that obviously didn't fly so well. I wasn't going to deal with it. Between sitting in a vehicle with Regina Cowden and having all of her hatred and aggression towards men projected onto me, or simply walking to school, it's easier for me to start off at 4 o'clock in the morning and walk to school. In Lodgepole, I had two major bullies. Those major bullies were Shawna Talisch and Dylan Bauer. Dylan Bauer, there was 2 times that I was going to fight him. The first time I was going to fight him, he wouldn't come out of the locker room, and I was told that he did not get to play a football game because he refused to come out of the locker room. The other time that I was going to fight him, I ran next to the Lodgepole bus because it takes the high school students from the school to the football playing field for practice. And on that particular occasion, the football coach said if I was going to fight Diller, I had to fight all of them. And I told that coach I was down. When I was in high school, I got to tell you, I wasn't nice if you were a bully to me. But I was nice enough to wait until after school. Well, let's fast forward a few years. Before Natalie was killed, I ran into Dylan Bauer down at the bar. He said that he was sorry for all the bullying that he did. And he was heartfelt and genuine about it. Now, Dylan Bauer eventually hooked up with Jason Jepson, little Jason Jepson's ex-wife. Her name is Ashley, and she is the daughter of Polly Olson, who is one of the people that I've told you all stories about. Small town, everybody knows everybody, right? Now, after Natalie died, Dylan Bauer offered to help me on more than one occasion. I lost a telephone that was full of evidence. Dylan Bauer saw me out there searching for it after almost all of my friends that I'd gone to for help didn't help. They weren't willing to go down there with me with their telephones and call my phone while I was looking for it. You know, if it's in the bushes and they call my phone number, then my phone is going to light up and it's going to ring and I'm going to be able to notice it. But they weren't getting that part. Instead, I had people who called my phone and called my phone and called my phone and called my phone and called my phone until my phone fucking died. And then, of course, calling it up to try to find it is not going to work. I never got that phone back. However, Dylan Bauer saw me out there looking for it, and he offered to help. Finally, after this thing is dead. That's not Dylan Bauer's fault. I hadn't seen Dylan Bauer in probably months by that point. After Natalie was killed, he was one of the few people who still talked to me like I was a human being. When I was in high school, a lot of people were mean to me over Dylan Bauer because he was popular. In Lodgepole, there were two cliques. There was the popular kids, and then there were the nerds. And the nerds did not hang together in their own clique. You couldn't. If two nerds in Lodgepole High School were hanging out with each other, they would be ostracized and victimized until they no longer spoke with each other. And I saw that happen more than once. Dylan Bauer, as a result of his popularity, because he was a football player, and, well, Western Nebraska is a lot like Texas when it comes to football. Your grades don't matter as long as you have a decent enough grade to play football. It's sad. Now, Dylan Bauer, when he tried to help me find my phone, he had two kids with him and he was running errands. And I didn't want to waste his time. I'd already been looking for days by this point. The chances of his help coming through wasn't that likely. And yes, I did turn down his help. I told him, go do what you need to do. When you come back through, I'll probably still be looking for my phone. You can help me then. I did not see him again after that. But the point is that Dylan made amends. Now let's move on to Shawna Talish. Shauna Talish and Dylan Bauer were the two popular kids in Lodgepole High School. Shawna Talish was pretty. She had blonde hair. She had the, what do you call it? Lumpy in the right places. I guess lumpy is a rude way to say it. She had all the right curves. So there's a lot of guys who had a crush on her, despite the fact that she was a horrible, horrible person. She was mean for no reason. And in Lodgepole High School, we had a English teacher, and pretty much all the girls in the school had a crush on this English teacher. But Shauna Talish sat a couple of desks ahead of me. And in order to see that teacher, well, I had to look over the top of her head. Now, she was sitting down, and she was pretty reasonably short. And the teacher was pretty tall. So, I mean, it's not like I had to stand up to look over her to see the teacher. The problem was that she would turn around for no reason whatsoever. She's just looking for an excuse to be mean to me. She'd turn around and look at me, and then she would scream in the middle of class, "Sean's staring at me!" No, I'm not. I'm looking over the top of your head at the teacher, not the back of your head. What purpose would I have for staring at the back of your fucking head, you nut job? Now, with Dylan Bauer and his popularity thing, after high school, I really didn't have any problems with Dylan Bauer. I forgive too easily. I've been told that a lot. Ran Ingersoll told me that I forgive people too easily. She also told me not to help people because I always get fucked. And it's kind of funny because at that point in time, she had been asking me for help, and I was there to help her. And she ended up screwing me severely. But with Dylan Bauer, people didn't try to use Dylan Bauer to become friends with me later on. They didn't try to talk shit about Dylan Bauer to pretend like we were magically friends now because they don't like Dylan anymore. They didn't do any of that stuff. Now with Shauna Talish, it's a different story. See, Shauna Talish was young and pretty and voluptuous, whatever words you want to use to describe her. But that was all the way back in high school. After high school, the people who had been extremely mean to me over her, some of them wanted to become friends with me. They didn't try to make any amends for what they had done. They didn't try to be apologetic for what they had done. What they did is came up and were making fun of Shauna Talish for being fat. That's right. Shauna Talish did not stay young, and she didn't stay pretty, and she didn't stay curvy in the right places. So these guys who had been doing horrible things to me because they had a crush on this girl, after high school, they're making fun of this girl because she's not the pretty person that they were all head over heels for. They were superficial in high school. They did not change after high school. They're just as superficial. Now that she doesn't have all the right curves, she's just another hippo to them. Just another whale. Just another fat ass. Now, is Shauna Talish the same mean person that she was in high school? I don't know. Unlike Dylan Bauer, I have not seen Shawna Talish since I left Lodgepole High School. And I'm fine with that. If I saw her today, let's say I go to Pumpkin Pantry to get my breakfast this morning, and I saw Shawna Talish in there, I probably would not recognize her. But even if I did, I wouldn't be rude or inconsiderate or mean. It's been years. Now, if she started in being the same exact person that she was back then, yeah, I'd speak up. My time in Lodgepole High School was hell, specifically because of Dylan Bauer and specifically because of Shauna Talish. My issue with Dusty Payton, matter of fact, that was the situation I got kicked out of Lodgepole High School for. Dusty Payton was only being a dick because he had a big ass crush on Shauna Talish. Is Shauna Talish less of a person now that she's bigger? And of course, the last time anybody spoke to me about Shauna Talish was probably 5 or 6 years ago. She might have gotten skinny again. She might have developed a meth addiction and wasted away to nothing and picked off her face and died. She might have decided that she wants to live a healthy lifestyle. She might have decided that she's going to go vegan. Who knows? My memories of her are not pleasant. Now, although she's never apologized for the way that she treated me in high school, she hasn't seen me since high school. So when would she have the chance? There's always the possibility that she does feel actual remorse for the way that she treated me. There is always that chance. If I never see her, I'll never know. And obviously, I'm not going to go out and try to find her. Matter of fact, I hope she has a good life. I hope Dylan Bauer has a good life. Those same superficial boys who did all of that evil shit to me. They wanted to make friends with me because she got fat. That's pretty messed up. But I had to deal with the same thing with Natalie. All these guys who wanted to impress her because she was young and pretty and curvy in the right places. Oh, yeah, and they could easily manipulate her by giving her free drugs. Although they weren't free drugs because these guys had expectations. And she followed the suit of her mother and both of her stepmothers. I'm not talking about Shauna now, I'm talking about Natalie. Natalie would date whoever had the drugs. She dated Cash because Cash had the drugs. She dated Tim Beeson because Tim Beeson had the drugs. She dated Joey Moreno because Joey Moreno had the drugs. I had to deal with a lot of men doing evil shit to me because they had crushes on her. Not my fault. Just like it wasn't my fault that Shauna Talish was looking for any excuse to be mean. That wasn't my fault. And I'm not going to blame it on myself when other people victimize me. But that's the difference between men and women. Or rather, how we're taught to treat them. With a woman, we are expected to drop whatever we're doing just because she wants help. Just because she wants something, not necessarily even help. There was one thing I was watching yesterday about a woman had gone to Home Depot and she bought some stuff that was a little bit too heavy for her to put into her vehicle. Now at Home Depot, they have employees that will help you to do that. Now, apparently a woman in a dress came up and helped her to put that stuff in her vehicle. That's great. But it's not owed to you just because you're a woman. And that was where the majority of this woman's complaints was that no men were stopping to offer to put her stuff in her vehicle. Why would we? Why would we? See, that brings up the next topic. Why would we help you? If we compliment you and we're not good looking, you treat us like a creep. Whether or not a man is creepy is less dependent upon his looks. Sorry, less dependent upon his actions and more dependent upon his looks. A good-looking guy and an ugly guy can do exactly the same thing. And I have seen this hundreds of times in my life. Where a woman will throw herself at a guy who she thinks is good looking, but she will treat an ugly guy like he is a creep for doing the same thing that the good looking guy did. It's okay if you're good looking. It's creepy if you're not. That is screwed up. If just complimenting you is registered in your head that we want to be with you and you're going to treat us like shit for it, that's because you are fucked in the head. If I give you a compliment, it's not because I want to hop into your fucking pants. If you saved a life and I compliment you because you saved a life, it is because I am grateful and you deserve that compliment. If you notice, I don't go complimenting women on how they look, ever. I don't care how you look. If I'm going to compliment you, it is going to be on your humanity or your sobriety or the fact that you're a good fucking parent. It's not going to be about your boobs. It's not going to be about your face. It's not going to be about your ass. You don't get compliments from me on your looks. You get compliments from me on your humanity, on your tenaciousness, on your ability to continue forward again for another day. Now let's talk about my two friends in Lodgepole High School. When I was in Lodgepole High School, I had two friends, Sam Wilkins and Gina, or Regina bookter. Gina was about the closest thing to a black person that I had seen other than Lupe Haracha when I moved here. Lupe Haracha, his last name is a Hispanic last name. He was a very dark-skinned individual. But he wasn't Mexican. He was born in the United States. He served as a tank commander. That's right. Regina's dad, Andrew Bookter, is one of the people that I rescued Jerry Sparks from. Andrew Bookter was also a tank commander. Sorry, Andrew was a tank driver, I believe. Lupe Horacio was also a tank commander. So, I mean, both of these guys got something in common, right? Regina was my lab partner in biology, Mr. Howard's biology. I remember Mr. Howard's name. I felt bad for Gina because, well, I worked better alone. Her having to work with me hobbled the both of us. But she was still nice to me. She still treated me like a person. And when Shawna Talish was being mean to me, Gina was about the only person in that school who would speak up about it. Now, she didn't go speaking up to the teachers. She didn't go speaking up to the principal or anybody else. She spoke to me about it. She treated me like a person in a town where nobody else did. Then there's Samuel Wilkins. This guy was probably the best friend that I had for my first 2 years in Nebraska. Samuel Wilkins was nothing but good to me. Almost every day, he would see the bullying that I had to go through almost every single day. He would see me getting shoved into the lockers during school and just brushing it off like nothing happened. Well, I didn't brush it off like nothing happened. That's just how it seemed because we were still at school. I didn't want to get kicked out of school. I wanted my education. So I waited until after school. These guys got away with bullying me in school every day, and no teacher would do a damn thing about it. And although Sam Wilkins didn't really do anything about the actual issue, he made me feel better by talking to me like I'm a human being. The difference between Sam Wilkins back then and Sam Wilkins now is the difference also between Brandon Jepson back then and Brandon Jepson now. Who is Brandon Jepson? That's the brother of Jason Jepson, Little J. The one who had a meth rock bigger than his thumb sitting in him and Ashley Olsen's house because they were both together at the time. He's got 2 kids, and he's got this meth rock sitting on a shelf because he collects a bunch of rocks. It just looks like a little piece of quartz up there. And he used to brag that his wife walks by it every day and doesn't know that it's a big old rock of meth. Then he did what's called overamping, which means that he took too much meth and ended up screwing up his head. And he did what Natalie Bollinger did. He had what's called a drug-induced psychosis. He tried to kill his wife. I believe she was actually still pregnant at the time that he tried to kill her. She hadn't had the baby yet. He was literally shooting at her. Now, Sam Wilkins, he knows a lot about loss too. His brother Cubby shot himself in the head right in front of Sam because Cubby wanted to be a Navy SEAL. He went through buds and he couldn't make it, so he came home and blew his own head off. Sam was not the same after that. Now, Sam, back in high school, he saw these things happening to me. And he felt bad about those things happening to me. But because he saw those things happening to me, He knew that it was the truth. And the situation recently where Sam and I stopped being friends is because he wasn't there to see it. So it must not have happened, and that's the way it is in his mind. People are dead because of exactly what Sam is doing. People are dead because I'm not worth hearing. If I had been heard before Natalie was shot in the head, Natalie's life could have been saved. If I had been heard about the abuse that I endured at Clearview Behavioral Health, they would not have been able to abuse other people in that way, and they wouldn't have killed Tiber Hatay. When I tried to turn in the officers who assaulted me repeatedly in Boulder, people didn't want to listen. One of those officers, Officer Waylon Lolatai, assaulted 6 other homeless people, or people he assumed were homeless, in 2018. 2 other officers in Boulder who had assaulted me killed Demetrius Shankling. The exact 2 officers who killed Demetrius Shankling took part in the assaults against me. Sam doesn't want to hear that. Neither does Brandon Jepson. They got it in their head that it's a certain way. And I'm the bad guy for speaking out because my abusers had badges. That's how it is in their heads. Just because the police don't fuck with somebody like Sam, living in Lodgepole, Nebraska, growing up there his whole life, everybody in that town knowing who he is. Yeah, he's sheltered. His opinion is sheltered. It's not based on reality. It's based on somebody who's sheltered, somebody whose family was there to look after him and to care for him and help him when he needed it. But I didn't have those things, and it doesn't register to Sam or Brandon what it's like to not have those things. Brandon Jepson's family will help him out how he needs. Samuel Wilkins' family will do the same thing. Now, obviously, his brother isn't going to be able to help him because he's dead. His mom is not going to be able to help him because she's dead. But his dad's not going to throw him away. And his dad is still alive. Oftentimes, the difference between somebody losing everything and somebody having an actual chance at life is whether or not they get the help when they need it. Let's say you're $100 short of your rent for the month. If you don't get that $100, you're going to be out on the streets, and it's going to cost thousands of dollars to get back into a place because you got to come up with first month's rent, last month's rent, and any other fees that they expect you to file. A lot of places that you go to rent now, they expect you to pay a filing fee. Some of them up to $200. And you don't get that money back. If they let you rent the place, you don't get the money back. If they won't let you rent the place, you don't get that money back. How many places are you able to file at before you are personally out of money? Now I want you to imagine trying to start off with no money. You were only $100 short, but you didn't get that $100. Nobody wants to help you out until you're flat on your face, and then they'll help you out. Meanwhile, most of these people who want to have their opinions about my situation have what they have because they had help keeping it. This is accumulated wealth. They accumulated what they had over years and years. And when they were in a situation where they were in a bind, they had help that they needed. Most of these kids had cosigners. The first time that they rented a place, they had to have a cosigner or nobody would rent. I didn't have a cosigner. So I got to make do without the resources that these folks have. But I've also got to deal with how they treat me over opinions of situations they've never been in. If you've never been raped, you probably shouldn't be telling rape victims how to think and feel. You probably shouldn't be telling them that they're wrong for feeling what they do or thinking what they do. Sam Wilkins and Brandon Jepson both threw it in my face. Well, you don't know the first thing about me. We haven't talked to each other in like 7 years. You're damn right we didn't talk to each other for like 7 years. You know why me and Brandon Jepson stopped talking to each other? Me and Brandon stopped talking to each other years before Natalie was killed. Because I was speaking out about the same things I speak out about today. Things that are all over the news. Meanwhile, Brandon can blanket all of the homeless people as being a specific way. All homeless people are drug addicts in his mind. All of them are drug addicts and child molesters and rapists. And the only way that you end up homeless is from being some sort of a sicko in the head. So it's fine for him to be prejudiced and biased against all homeless people. Meanwhile, the police, well, they enforce immoral laws, outright break the law. They're taught to lie. And Brandon Jepson himself taught me about techniques that the police use in order to try to frame people. One of those techniques is called pain compliance. Anywhere else in the world, we call it torture. You change the name of it and it is magically okay. It's not okay to torture someone by putting their wrist sideways in the handcuffs so that it's wedged in there and they're in extreme pain. It is against the law to torture somebody that way, especially to try to get a false confession. But if you call it pain compliance, it is literally the same thing. It is literally the same thing, but magically it's okay now. Kind of like somebody who is mentally disabled. They're disabled. There's a bunch of rights that they are entitled to because of their disability, as well as the fact that they're a human being. But then you change one word. You change the word disabled to the word ill, and now they have no rights. They don't have the rights of a disabled person, and they don't have the rights of a human being. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet, would it not? If you take a Mr. Lincoln is a white rose, a specific breed of white rose. And they smell pretty good. They kind of have a hint of a pepper smell to them as well. Now, if you call Mr. Lincoln Adolf Hitler, well, people are a lot less likely to buy it because it's got a racist connotation to it. Will it smell different because you're calling it Adolf Hitler instead of Mr. Lincoln? No, it's going to smell the exact same that it did before. Changing the name does not change the attributes. It's kind of like with all these man-hating feminists, and by the way, not all feminists are man-haters. So I'm specifically targeting the man-hating ones. They post up all of this anti-men stuff on Facebook. All day long I see this shit. Men are this and men are that and men are pigs and so on and so forth. And men owe us this and men owe us that. Why didn't these men stop and offer to help? Because they're fucking scared of you, you fucking twat. You don't like that word? It's derogatory? You damn right it is. You damn right it is. And I'm not sexist about using it either. When I was up in Washington State, my dad decided that he was going to stand in my doorway and not allow me to leave, tell me I'm a pussy, I called my dad a twat. That's right. What I'm fighting for is actual equality. That's it. I'm not fighting for the homeless people to have special rights. I'm not fighting for the disabled to have special rights. What I'm asking is that the rights that are already on the fucking books at least be observed, but they're not. The entire system rapes the fuck out of homeless people. I don't mean literally. I mean figuratively. Everything gets taken from us over and over again. We are used to fill the jails so these departments can pat themselves on the back, so they can show the public that they've done something. See, we're taking criminals off the streets. No, you're not. In Boulder, Colorado, the police ignored the homeless people that were actual predators. They went after the decent homeless people. Explain that to me. Meanwhile, Brandon Jepson wanted to be a hateful person to me because I blanketed the police. But the police can be blanketed in the way that Brandon Jepson was blanketing the homeless and have it make sense. Whereas blanketing the homeless in that way doesn't. Homeless people are not in a position of authority. Homeless people, therefore, cannot abuse their position of authority. Police officers are taught things like pain compliance and how to lie and how to turn off their body cameras. Police follow immoral laws. Immoral laws. You guys don't think that, huh? You think that the law should be our judge of what is right and wrong, correct? Slavery is still legal in the United States of America. Still legal. Not illegal, but legal. It's illegal to enslave you for being black. But if we trump up charges because you're homeless, well, it doesn't matter that you're black. You've been convicted of a crime, and now you can be used for slave labor. Yes, there are black people today who are slaves in the United States because of the 13th Amendment. Community service is a form of slavery. The only reason that is allowed is because of the 13th Amendment. If it weren't for the 13th Amendment, it would be against the law to have community service. Community service is court ordered. Volunteering is not. Now, this video was mostly about my bullies in Lodgepole High School, but also with the people that are involved in it, you get to realize what a ginormous mess it is and how these people all know each other. There are some people that I don't have a problem with, that mostly don't have a problem with me. The problem that they do have with me is public opinion. That public opinion was given to the public. The public didn't bother trying to find out if the things being said were correct. They just assumed. Many people in chapel won't talk to me because they're friends with my predators, or they don't want backlash from the reputation that I have, a reputation that is not deserved. There's one woman here in town. She lives right next door to some of my predators. She's friends with them, but she doesn't take it out on me. She does not take it out on me. Matter of fact, back when I was handing out blankets in Boulder, Colorado to the homeless, she's one of the people who offered to give me blankets to take back to Boulder, Colorado to give to the homeless people. I'm not going to tell you her name because I don't want her being targeted by my predators, and she does live in this town. There are several other people that when you guys are going through my videos and you're wondering why I'm not giving names, there's a reason for it. There are safety issues there. Samuel Wilkins and I are not friends. Brandon Jepson and I are not friends. We used to be. And the comments that they made when they decided after Natalie died that they were going to, well, pretend to be my friends again, they showed that they weren't. But also the things that they had said about, well, we haven't talked to each other in 7 years. You don't know a thing about me. Well, here's the thing, Brandon Edward Jepson. The same thing goes the other way. You didn't know a goddamn thing about me because when I told you about the abuse that homeless people have to take from police, that he is lucky enough that he's never had to go through because he has a good family and good help. He threw me away because I spoke out about my abusers. My abusers in Boulder, Colorado were primarily the Boulder Police Department. Just like every other homeless person in Boulder, Colorado. Homeless people victimize each other a lot too. They get desperate. They get desperate. They need help. They're not getting it. They got PTSD from being lied to, harassed, and abused by all the other people that were going to help them. It's horrible. It's horrible for people to just assume that because somebody wears a badge that they must be the good guy. Just because they have a badge means that they would never, ever harm a hair on your child's head. People don't make as big of an issue about that as they do about killing black people. Obviously, people are dead, so, black people being killed is probably something that needs to be at the forefront. But then again, nobody cares about the homeless who are dead, do they? 49% of those murdered by police in 2019 were homeless. For every homeless person that I know that was killed by a police officer, there are literally hundreds who were killed by bad laws. Benjamin Harvey froze to death because of a law that makes it illegal for a homeless person to use a fucking blanket. He froze to death on Christmas Day